Subscribe to my channel or catch a jerkbait to the face. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to a brand new In the Shop. I've got a really good one for you today. And if you've been following this series, you remember a recent video we did on picking color for cold, muddy water. Cold, dirty water. Today, we're going to focus in on the opposite topic, which is picking color, selecting color for ultra clear cold water, right? So the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm talking about clean, ultra clear, super clear water that is cold. And it's a very relative topic because in a lot of places in the country right now, you're dealing with the coldest water of the year, whatever that is. If you live in the Northeast or the Midwest, you're seeing temperatures in the 50s and 40s, maybe even the 30s. If you're on the West Coast or live in the South, you're seeing temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Regardless, it's some of the coldest water of the year, and this water is clear. Let's talk about what clear means. And clean to me, clean water is when you drop a bait down and you could see it 12 to 14 inches, 10 to 14 inches, or greater. That kind of clarity. And a lot of times, this happens in the late fall and winter, right? Let's talk about why that happens. A lot of times, you're talking about October, November, December, even into January, there's not a lot of precipitation. There's not a lot of rainfall, right? So fisheries are getting clean. A lot of times there's a winter drawdown in a lake, and when that water's drawn down, it sucks out a lot of the sediment and it gets ultra clean. So a lot of reasons this time of the year you're dealing with clear to super clean to ultra clean water. And ultra clean water would be like, you look down, you can see the bottom in 10 foot plus. A lot of places like that, okay? So as much as dirty cold water is the kiss of death, the next kiss of death is cold, ultra clean water. I wouldn't say it's as tough as dirty cold water, but ultra clear clean water can be tough. So I want to talk to you about my color selection, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how these fish are acting and why these color baits are working so good, okay? So let's talk about color selection. If you remember from our cold, dirty water video, we wanted a bait that stood out because the fish's visibility was cut down. We talked about orange as being a key color. We talked about chartreuse, bright chartreuse being a key color. And of course, we talked about black, which is the ultimate contrast in dirty water. But in clear water, you ready for this? We want the opposite. We don't want a bait that is bright and stands out or creates contrast. We want a bait that blends in. Because in dirty water, their sight was hurt and we used color to attract them. But in ultra clear cold water, we want that bait to blend in. We want that bait to almost disappear in that ultra clean, ultra clear water, ultra cold water. We want that bait to blend in and look natural. Those same baits that we used in dirty water, cold dirty water, bright chartreuse, bright orange, black, in ultra clear cold water, it's too much of a shock for them. A lot of times it looks too unnatural and it causes a red flag. This is something that's not natural. In this ultra clean cold water, we want lures that blend in, that look neutral. And think about the forage in ultra clear cold water. It's muted out. It's getting almost translucent because of that cold, clear water, right? Forage does a great job of mimicking their surroundings, right? Of blending in. That's a survival instinct for forage. Crawfish, baitfish, minnows, shad, herring, alewife, all of it. So when that water gets ultra clear and it gets ultra cold, a lot of times the bait gets muted out and more translucent. So thinking about that, we want our bait selection to be natural, clear, almost translucent. And I'm going to show you just a couple categories real quick to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Let's start with a jerk bait, a suspending jerk bait, because a suspending jerk bait is probably one of my favorite cold, ultra clear water lures. But look at the color. Look at the color. And I'm gonna take one of these out in the pack in a second here. We've got original Shadow Wrap in a color called Carbon. We've got a Shadow Wrap Shad in the deep bill version in a color called Elite Blue. Both of these suspending jerk baits are great choices. But look at this Elite Blue. And if I'll try to move it a little bit for you in this light. And you're going to see something that is what I want you to think about when you're picking lures for cold, ultra clear water, is that lure is translucent. If I look, I can see right to that camera through this bait. It's a little frosted. So this bait is not only translucent, but it's also frosted. It's got a dull finish on it. They are exactly the two things I want my colors to look like when I'm fishing cold, ultra clear water, right? These translucent style lures blend in. They look neutral, they look natural. When that fish sees it coming through the water twitching, or that suspended jerkbait's sitting there and it's just barely rising, when that fish inspects it, it looks real. It's not something that's threatening or presenting a red flag. It looks natural because it's blending in, okay? So on hard baits, even a Shad Wrap. Here's a Shad Wrap laying here. Look at that Shad Wrap, right? This is the original shad color. In fact, I've taken a piece of, I don't know if you can tell, but I've taken a piece of sandpaper and I've actually sanded that down a little bit. Original Shad Wrap, okay? Look at that natural muted color. And this isn't translucent, but it's dulled down. It blends in. It looks natural, right? So we want lures that have a translucency to them. Boy, you could say the same thing for jigs and spinnerbaits or chatterbaits. Here we've got a couple spinnerbaits in my hand and another great lure for cold, ultra clear water is a spinnerbait, a good old spinnerbait. Got two of my favorites in my hand right here. Of course, there's that Lover short arm spinnerbait, brand new. And there's that FS spinnerbait, and that's such a great winter bait. If you look at it, it's got the single Indiana on it. But look at both these colors. This one, the FS, is in a color called Baitfish. And then the short arm Lover is in a color called Boogaloo Dace. Look at that skirt. Exactly the same thing we said with the jerkbait, right? It's a natural, almost translucent color, right? That clear skirt with a little bit of black and a little bit of metal flake in it, right? When that fish see that skirt, it's not contrast, it's blend, it's blending. And it looks real in that cold, clear water. The less threatened a fish feels by the bait, the more inclined he's going to be to strike that bait, okay? Let's go to the last category. And this is another bait that is in my top 3 for lures to use when the water is cold and ultra clear. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that next, but let me get through this last color segment. The same thing goes for soft plastic lures, hard baits, skirted baits, soft plastic lures. The clearer the water, clean, super clear to ultra clear, the colder the water, the more you want that lure to blend in. I love a swim bait when the water gets ultra clear and cold. It's a great lure for targeting fish when they're suspended. You're going to hear more about that in a second. But when I'm picking color, I shy away from those bright chartreuses or baits that have a lot of color and contrast. I shy away from that, and in my plastics, I go to natural, neutral colors. This is a Berkley Power Bait Power Swimmer. I like anything from a 2/8 all the way up to a 4/8, depending on the size of the forage. This is a color, it's called Sexy Shad, but once again, just like the jerkbait, just like the spinnerbait, look at it. Almost see-through, right? It's got this smoke body with a light smoke back and a little bit of that silver and yellow flake in it, in the belly. A translucent lure, a natural lure, that when that fish sees this bait, by the way, this one rolls side to side and has a tail wag left to right. A lot of these tab tails, they just have a tail. This one actually rolls a little too. When that fish sees that bait, it's blending in. He can't get a look at it. That's exactly what you want in ultra clear water when it's super cold. You don't want the fish to get a great look at it. You want that lure to be almost invisible, almost camouflage in that ultra clean cold water. So even with soft baits, I want you to go natural, neutral, translucent, little bit of flake. That's the kind of bait you need to throw. We talked about color. Now you know the color. Let me talk about what the fish typically do in that cold, clear water. And I'll just show you right here with my hands. In cold, dirty water, the fish get low and tight, right? The dirtier the water, the muddier the water, the more fish want to touch the bottom or get tight to a piece of cover, right? A stump, a log, a rock. But in ultra clear cold water, the fish have a tendency to get off the bottom and loose to the cover, right? So it's the opposite of cold, dirty water. Cold, dirty water toward the bottom, touching the cover. Clear, ultra clear cold water, off the bottom, loose from the cover. And because of that, you know, a lot of these fish, quite frankly, are suspended in that cold, ultra clear water. And, you know, we mentioned the few lures that are my top 3 that are perfect baits for fishing ultra clear cold water, right? And here they go. And if you look at them, they're all baits that target more of that middle zone versus extreme top or extreme bottom. Jerkbait for sure is a lure that covers that middle zone. The deeper one, this is the Shadow Wrap Shad, the deep build. This is good for about 8 or 10 feet down. The shallower build version, here's your regular Shadow Wrap. That's good for about 4 to 6 foot down. So jerkbait would be number 1. Number 2, a slow rolled medium retrieve spinnerbait. Tremendous lure for covering the middle of the water column. And this one sinks, so you can control it. You can find out where the bait is and control it. So a spinnerbait. And last but not least, man, when that water gets cold and clear, that swim bait is just the ultimate bait. That little subtle wobble, side to side roll with that translucency, once again, on a 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, 5/16 half ounce jig head, I can control where this bait's at. If I see the fish suspended in 20 foot over 40, I can count to 20 and slowly retrieve this bait through the level of the fish. Because it's clear, because it's translucent, it's natural. When those fish in that ultra clear cold water see it, they're not going to be scared to bite it. Man, I hope you like this in the shop. We talked about another scenario that you're going to encounter Before your fishing career is over, you will see ultra clear cold water. And now you know how to pick color for that situation. Man, stop real quick. If you like what you're hearing, if you like this stuff, you like these educational videos, mash that subscribe button down there. You see it? It's right down there. It's red and I don't know, it's down there somewhere. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, tell your friends, tell your buddies, your cousin, your neighbor, your uncle about Mike Iaconelli Fish on YouTube. We got new educational videos every single week. If you fish in cold, clear water, you can still catch them. Pick those colors and you're going to get bit. Bye.